All right. Well, good morning, good afternoon, everyone. Thank you for joining our Signworld public webinar today. My name is Jeannie Borum, and I am part of the corporate team here at Signworld, and I'll be moderating our session. For those of you who have never attended one or have watched a previously recorded one, just a really quick overview of what to expect for this next hour. First, we're going to introduce our panelists, our owners who are in the business today, to give you a better understanding of themselves, their background, where they're located, etc. And then the fun starts, where we're going to go to each of our guests who are attending the call to ask an individual question for the owners to all contribute responses to. I will ask you to come off of mute. I'll call your name and just ask you to do one question at a time. If time permits and we can go around for a second round or additional questions, we will certainly do so as well. So with that said, let's go ahead and get our owners introduced today. I'm going to go in order of the soonest or most recently opened assigned role operations. So our newest owner that's on our call today is Ron Martin. So Ron, go ahead and give an introduction of yourself, please.
Yeah, hey, thanks, Jeannie. Afternoon, all. Like Jeannie said, my name is Ron Martin. I own South Lake Signs in Tampa, Florida, just outside the Tampa region. Been in business, so turn my website on. You'll find that the when website turned on is kind of a key date. So 10/1 of 23. 2024 was my first full calendar year in business. I've got a 3,500 square foot warehouse space with a roller door to pull vehicles in and the standard equipment that Signworld recommends, including the rollover laminator, which is fantastic, by the way. I have had one of the questions is how many employees. I've been staffed at 2. I'm currently at 0, but have my project manager replacement coming in Monday, and then plan to bring in a graphic design / production individual from a technical school after that as an internship. So at this point, I really feel like right at about 2 full-time, maybe 1 full-time, maybe 1 part-time capacity. 2025 sales projections. I'm projecting 360 to 400. Last year, I invoiced just under 300 and closed out. Significant difference between invoicing and closing out jobs, about 150 of closed out completed jobs. Let's see. Biggest customer, biggest project. I'm currently working on a couple monument signs. One's for a church that's about $35,000. Another one's a multi-tenant for a very small stretch mall area, like 4 or 5 customers, tenants in there. And then background career. So I spent 27 years in disability insurance, worked for 3 major insurance companies in operation. When I left, I was running an insurance company's FMLA claim operations, so I had about 90 people reporting to me. It was fun, brought me all kinds of skill sets. I miss the people, don't miss the job. So anything I miss, Jeannie?
Well, I think that was a great overview. Thank you for sharing, Ron.
Yep.
All right. Our next newest owner on our panel today is Mr. Dave Farrow.
Hi, everybody. Dave Farrow, 303 Sign Company. We're in Longmont, Colorado, about an hour north of Denver. Started business May of 2017, so we're coming on 8 years. We've got 4,200 feet, 5 employees. Sales projection is 1.2 for this year. We did 1.05, I guess, million last year. Biggest customer project. I got a couple of things in working right now. I have a customer that's a pharmaceutical manufacturer that keeps gobbling up buildings in its office park. So that's just kind of the perpetual business loop. And I've got a set of channel letters that I'm waiting for the property developer to approve that are all 6-foot channel letters, and those will be about $35,000 worth of channel letters. My background, I did 20 years of software product management. They started making me run engineering teams, and I don't code, so that really didn't make any sense. I needed to do something that was analog, so found Signworld.
I love it. Analog. You call I want to put the coordination or the correlation there, but that's
Yeah.
terminology. All right, Mr. Don Conklin, please share an overview of yourself and your business. And you're on mute right now, just so you know.
You didn't say the old owner, so I'm glad about that.
No, I was being very delicate in how I positioned you.
The mature owner.
That's right.
Started in 2011, so coming up on 14 years. We started in 2,000 square feet. We're up to 12,400 square feet. Started with 2 employees. We're at 21 now. Did 5.6 last year, 5.6 million last year, looking at 6+ million this year. My background was in telecom. I was in telecom for about 25 years before I decided to strike out on my own. And Teresa and I own the business. She's retired, and 2 of my 4 sons are running the day-to-day business, so I can go travel the world. So.
And he literally does travel the world. So you really were in the analog days of telecom, though, right?
You know, it was DSL was a big deal when I was back in the day. I was there when, you know, the modem sound was the sound of getting on the internet.
Right? Like, what was it? AOL was the big,
yeah.
and Earthlink, I think, was another one.
Netscape. I mean, come on.
That was the days. All right. Well, let's have the fun start and let our guests ask you all some questions that might be on their mind about our business. Jim and Ashley, I'm going to ask you first to come off of mute, tell the group where you're located, and go ahead with a question for them to answer today.
Hello. Hello, Jim and Ashley here from Troy, Missouri. We're about an hour north west of St. Louis. Looking at opening up in an area that doesn't have a whole lot of I guess a whole lot of competition. The one thing that we're looking at really closely here is trying to consider whether we want to go ahead and buy the real estate that, you know, obviously a larger facility than what we would need to start off and kind of build into that. Or if you have any advice as to when the best time is to buy your permanent facility. And if any of you started off purchasing and are glad you did it.
Great question, Jim. I can tell you we only have probably a handful of owners who bought their very first building, but other owners have in their journeys, and each of these might have their own impressions. I thought you were going to ask a competition question when you started that question, but kind of went into a different direction. So we'll save that one for later. But Dave, let's start with you. Have you bought your building? And if not, what would you advise an owner who's considering starting their business and buying a building at the same time?
Doing it at the same time kind of depends how much cash you got. You know, I think the good time to buy it is probably as soon as you got enough cash to buy it. I think there's, you know, you get a 4 or 5 year lease, and that thing's up before you know it. Next thing you know, you're renegotiating your lease. So I don't think there's a downside to buying your building. You know, you're going to want to definitely have room to grow. So don't buy something that's 1,500 feet because you'll outgrow that in a couple of years.
Okay, great feedback. Ron, how about you?
Yeah, I mean, I would agree. That's part of probably my, 5-year, maybe 10-year plan is to be able to have the business have enough cash to own its own building and then lease out the square footage that I won't use. So I would definitely agree. I would do your homework on, what owners at 5, 10 years plus are doing in square footage. And then I would look for a building probably double of that or something. That way you've got plenty of lease space to support you from a capital perspective while you're getting up and running on your business, but then opportunity to push people out and grow as you go. I'm at 3,500 square feet and it's more room than I need, and I knew that. But others, as you grow, have significantly more square footage. So you wouldn't want to buy a building, in my opinion, now and then 5 years from now say, yeah, it worked out great, but now he needs to buy another building. It may work out capital wise, but seems dangerous.
Okay, great advice. Don, how about you? Do you guys own the building today? I don't know if I know that answer.
We do. I've owned it since 2014. I would say the biggest gamble is how big you're going to grow, right? I always tell people that are starting a business that to put on a piece of paper what their vision is of what they're going to be in 5 years, how big they're going to be, how many employees they're going to be, how much equipment they're going to have, how much revenue they're going to be doing, and then build to that, right? Because the biggest issue you're going to have is outgrowing the building, right? Or if you're not growing as fast as can you get another tenant into the building, right? I personally believe, I mean, it's great to own a building, but I think I would go ahead and get the business up and running first, sign maybe a 3-year lease and see how it's going. So then you have a sense of what exactly the business looks like and how much space you will need. Because until you actually start running the business and knowing what space requirements are, you don't know what kind of square footage you need. I have 12,400 and my guys tell me I don't have enough, but I'm not buying any more at this point in time, right? So I think the biggest gamble there is how big is the building, and again, if you outgrow it, can you churn that real estate to sell it and buy another building? So, but at the end of the day, yes, you want to own your own building and then charge exorbitant rents back to the company.
Very good. Thank you for that advice, owners. All right, let's go to our next guest for a question. Bob, is it Hebeson? I hope I'm saying that last name correctly.
It's pretty close. It's hay bison, but that's better. That's better than most people do.
Well, thank you.
So yeah, I have questions about, startup and what your biggest challenges were, and specifically, how did you generate leads and get a strong footing on just getting sort of regular business in?
Okay. Let's start with our newest owner. Ron, you're still in the early phases. What's the biggest challenges you're experiencing and how are you getting business?
Yeah, so especially starting out, almost 100% web marketing and through marketing agency, paid ads, things like that. But quickly, my focus has been networking, building relationships to bring in business organically. And it's starting, right now I've probably got at least a half a dozen repeat customers, maybe $1,000 projects, maybe $5,000 projects, but they're repeat, right? I would definitely recommend, very strong on web marketing and social media to begin, but networking strongly, and then taking care of your customers. As my confidence has started building, I'm able to have much better conversation with customers, and with that, my confidence spreads to their confidence in me, and being able to guide your customers where they should go is a major increase in your business, because then they trust you. They stop thinking about how much is this going to cost and start sending you to work, just get it done. And they start talking about you of, hey, he's great, just go to them, right? And that's where you start building momentum. Jeannie, I'm going to step away for just a second. I should be back for the next question.
Okay, sounds great.
Thanks.
You bet. So David, was a two-part question. Biggest challenge you faced in the very beginning and how you got your initial clients?
Yeah, biggest challenge is probably finding good people. Took me 3 attempts to get my first employee that stuck for 4.5 years. And then another big challenge, I think, was also the marketing piece. I decided I was going to run my own Google ads and do that kind of thing, and found out really quickly I'm not good at that. Hired a web marketing outfit that took care of all that for me, and it made a huge difference. I think you got to decide what you're going to be good at, and you don't need to become an expert in QuickBooks. Find somebody that can do that for you. Web marketing is another one. Outsource those things so you can concentrate on selling and building signs.
No, great answer there. Don, I know it's been a while since you went back to the beginning, but what would you say to that?
I don't have dementia yet, but I would tell you that the first year and a half, it was all about networking. I would attend probably 7 to 10 networking events a week, getting our name out there, getting my name out there, letting people know who we were in the local market. And at the same time, launching the website and getting the website to crawl and things like that. And after about 3 or 4 years, we were getting enough repeat business and off the internet that, we weren't needing to do as much networking at that point in time. Biggest challenge is getting money in the door. I mean, nothing happens in this business unless you actually sell something. So I would say that is the biggest challenge. But today, um, 85% of our business is repeat customers, and of the other 15%, half's referral from repeat customers, and the other half is off of the web. So I mean, you just got to build the business up and make sure your reputation is sterling in the marketplace.
Very good. Thank you, Don. All right, let's go to another guest for a question. Bob Cooper, if you can go ahead and tell the group where you're located and go with the question.
So I'm in Stuart, Florida, which is about 45 minutes north of West Palm Beach, Florida. My wife and I moved here in 2022 from Washington, D.C. area. And so I have a question later about market, but the first one was about hiring. So you guys have mentioned hiring can be a challenge. Just, I don't know, are there any nuggets of what to do or what not to do when you're focused on hiring? I think that of the people that I've talked to so far in phone calls, at least half have said that in one way or another, hiring is challenging, not just in startup mode, but as you go forward as well, that it can be hit and miss, and there are different ideas as to what's right. So I'd really love, people's point of view on that.
Yeah, I think employees in any business is probably the biggest challenge in today's labor market in general. I mean, the good thing is fortunately our owners don't need a lot of employees, but you definitely need some. So I think that every owner, at least 80+% would say that that's their biggest challenge in the business. So this is a great question, Bob. Dave, let's start with you. You mentioned about going through a few employees to start with. What advice do you have for someone considering this business when it comes to the employee side?
That's a good question. I mean, you got to drill down. There's a lot of people that claim a lot of sign industry knowledge and experience when they worked, 6 months at a Fast Signs doing who knows what. That doesn't exactly make you a sign expert. You got to find somebody that's not afraid to get dirty. I think there's a certain amount of, there's digging holes, there's crawling in attics, there's things that got to get done that you're going to need. Yeah, it's tough. I mean, I told somebody the other day, I go, the things you will hear from your employees is it's unique, I guess, or it's different. And I'm not exactly sure why, but there's the reasoning and rationale behind why people have done certain things is amazing sometimes. So it's tough, and it's a little bit of a crapshoot. I think you got to what was this? It's one of the Signworld owners down south of me, he said a while ago, he said, as soon as you think it's time that somebody's not going to work out, then it's really time that they're not working out, and you got to plan for their replacement. I wish I had a better answer. It's just hard.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I agree, especially if you've never managed people before or hired them. Don, you've got a lot of years in this business. What's your answer to this question about the tips and tricks to find good employees?
Steal them from your competitors. No, I would tell you that it's really more, the first couple of employees is more about cultural fit with your business. We use a term in the South called G and haw. So do they G and haw with you? Do they mesh with you? Because at the end of the day, a lot of people know this is not a difficult business. And you design a sign, you make a sign, you install a sign. It's not rocket science. There is some skill involved in that. But at the end of the day, if they have the skill, but they don't have the same value system that you do, it's not going to work, right? We're at 21 people. When we're hiring people now, we hire based upon our core values, but it's got to be the right piece part, right? Because adding one person to 21 people, if that's the wrong person, then it can upset a lot of other people. So, but I think if you stick to the core value system of what you're trying to build the business around, I mean, I think that's the key. at that point in time. And then you'll get a reputation in the marketplace. I've had employees leave other sign companies and come ask if I would hire them. So you get a reputation that way too, not just for your customers, but also for other employees.
Very good. Ron, you mentioned that had some and you're down some. You've had a little bit of a roller coaster. What's your advice?
Do you see Jeannie laughing while she's asking me this question? Because Jeannie and I have had recent conversations. So, yeah, so I would say three major things. One, Signworld offers a vendor relationship with Career Plug. It's a really nice vendor. You know, it's a bit expensive. It's like I think it was like $900 a year, but it allows you to put the job description and your screening questions and your schedule for interviewing right into their system, and then they plug the posting into not only Indeed but all the different job boards. So it's a one-stop managing that process. I definitely encourage that. However, you know, full transparency, this last hiring round, I just posted on Indeed because I felt more confident with what I was looking for, right? Second point is use Signworld resources. They were fantastic for me initially, just understanding what I wanted for a skill set. They helped interview, they helped critique the technical skill and give opinion. You know, I put two people through interviews with myself and then with my Signworld resources, and then had a meeting with Jack at the end, and you know, we had two, and we both had the same conclusion of hiring the same person. But that resource is fantastic, especially with not knowing anything in the sign industry. And then, like Don was talking about, I am huge about behavior over technical skill. And, you know, I was in my corporate world, and I'm even more into this. Don't be afraid to hire someone because they're missing pieces of technical skill. You're going to have to lean in. You're going to have to learn it yourself, and you're going to have time in your initial period to learn to use your Signworld resources, your peers, your vendors, and even, you know, local peers. You know, you end up discovering you've got a fantastic pool of resources that are ready and willing to help you out. So I think it's very easy without knowing the sign industry. I've got to get a guy that knows everything, and he can teach me. If you can, you can, but I wouldn't make that the be all end all. Hire based on behavior and who you think is going to grow and who you can afford, and who's going to follow you versus someone that is going to use you to finance their sign business because they've been doing it 30 years and now they got a guy that's got money and can just pay for what that guy wants to do, right? Use your resources and you'll be fine.
Very good. Thank you, Ron. All right, let's go to our next guest for a question. Ravi, if you can come off mute, tell the group where you're located and go ahead with the question.
Good afternoon, folks. I'm actually in Dallas, Fort Worth, in a town called Farmount. It's about -6 degrees, which is incredibly cold for us in Dallas.
Wait,
So,
Ravi, did you say -6
yeah, last night was like -6.
in Texas?
Yes.
Okay, that is cool.
So, my question might be a little naive. So this is my week 2 of my, my journey into looking at, the franchises world. And I talked to Dick Cassidy last week. So I think one of the things I was kind of wanted to get your input on is, there are about 450 sign companies in Dallas-Fort Worth area. And from the links that Dick has sent me, it looks like there are about 4 of them that I counted that are close to, not too close, but Fort Worth and South Lake and Frisco, which is about a good 25-mile radius away from where I live. So my question is, and I don't know if 450 is a huge set of competition, but how do you differentiate what you bring to the table in that market from a saturation perspective? And second, I think, I don't know, Ron or Dave, when you mentioned, when people look for you to finance their part of the world, I guess, like, how do you protect your customers as you grow with them is my question.
Well, it only took the fourth person to ask the competition question, so well done. We always get this at least once, because you're absolutely right, Robbie. Wherever you're located, doesn't matter what city in the country, there's definitely sign companies in your market. So always something to think about and look at. Dave, I don't know what you found when you were exploring in your market, but talk a little bit about the competition as you were exploring, and then what your feelings are about competition today, and how do you protect your customer base from someone else trying to take your business away?
Yeah, so it's interesting. There's the town I'm in is about 100,000 people. We do about 18% of our business in this town, and then the rest of it in the surrounding towns. And yeah, there's sign companies all over. There's 4 other companies in the town I'm in. One's a Fast Signs. I actually send them all the residential real estate inquiries because we don't want to do those. There's another guy that wants to wrap trucks, and there's a couple of old guys that I'm not exactly sure what they do. We don't really run into them. There's competition around. I don't really run into any of them. There are some jobs where you're in a bidding situation, and we provide the bid, and we're not going to be the cheapest company in town. So if they're looking for the cheapest company, I provide the bid, and I don't spend a lot of time worrying about it. You get relationships with customers, and you're solving a problem, right? So we have a lot of kind of industrial, warehouse, manufacturing customers that need signs for all kinds of stuff all the time, and they just call me, and I send them a quote, and they say, sure, go ahead and do it. Or they get me a PO or whatever. I don't really run into a lot of kind of price competitive things, and you can generally tell when you're talking to the customer. You ask them where they are in their process, and they'll tell you, oh, we're going to get multiple bids. And I don't worry about that, because half the time they're just telling you that because they're trying to make you give them a decent price. We compete on kind of service and quality. I don't really try to compete on price, if that makes sense.
Absolutely. Don, what would you say? I know Atlanta, we've got probably 15 Signworld owners in Atlanta, and I know we got lots of sign companies, but tell us a little bit about your discovery process, and what you feel about competition today, and how do you keep your clients happy?
Well, I would start out by asking the people on the call if they've ever hired a contractor to do any work at their house, and think back to that experience and say, I'm sure they were always all on time, always all on budget, and did things exactly the way you wanted them to, and kept you status on anything going on the project, right? And if anybody can say that, I want to hire your contractor. Okay. Our business, we are business people that are trying to run a sign company. Most of our competition are sign people that are trying to run a business. Okay. People like us know about statusing customers and keeping them informed and doing things right and doing them on time and stuff like that. The other people are more concerned on the technical end of how do you make a sign and how do you install a sign. So that gives people in sign world pretty much a leg up, because of the fact that we're all business people and we know how to run a business. The sign part of it's, probably the smallest part of it. It's the actual customer service part of it. I mean, I could be in any business as long as I can, provide the customer service, whether it's selling signs or anything else like that. Plus, it's not like you're in an industry where there's a dominant player in the marketplace, right? You're not competing against McDonald's. I mean, if you look at all the name brand sign companies out there, Signorama, Fast Sign, Signs by Tomorrow, Image 360, you put them all together, they own maybe 8% of this market. So, it's not really like there's a 800-pound gorilla in the marketplace. There's a lot of niches in the marketplace for you to compete in.
Very good. Ron, what would you say? I'm sure there's a lot of sign companies in Tampa. What's your thoughts?
I've met 1 or 2. Yeah. There's a ton in Tampa. I agree with what Don and Dave say. The only thing I'll add, because I don't want to repeat them, is 2 examples of competition. One, There's an environmental graphics sign company literally outside my front door. And when I started, I just walked in his front door. Hey, this is me. This is what I'm doing. They're doing about $3 million just in hospital and school ADA signage. That's all they're doing, working in acrylic. He's become a fantastic mentor of mine. He spent 4 hours early on of helping me understand how to read Muni code and permits and, you know, all of that. And then just had a meeting with another peer of mine, and I put it in quotes because they're doing $30 million a year this year with a target for 25 of 33 million. And fantastic discussion, and they were looking to use me for overflow vinyl work. So I think 99% of the people, businesses that I've run into in this industry, in this area, are all, hey, what are you doing? How can I help? You know, and let's talk shop. Very collaborative, and very much willing to work with each other. I think there's a realization, even with a large area like Tampa and so many different sign companies, there's so much work out there, especially post 2 hurricanes knocking down all kinds of signs, right? And very collaborative. And I really haven't gotten into cutthroat, you know, competition significantly at all.
Love it. And Robbie, if I can give you my answer to this question, it's actually stolen from the founder of our business, Ken Kent. Whenever this question came up, he always used to use this analogy, thinking back to the days of the yellow pages. And if you were to take a page of yellow pages, grab all the pages that advertise sign companies and hold those up and let all the other pages fall down, that's your competition, but these are all your potential customers. So I think when you think about that demand that's out there and all the businesses and all the repetitive needs they have for signs, yes, there's going to be a lot of great sign companies. There's going to be some mediocre and not so great sign companies, but there's a lot of businesses that need it. So it's definitely something to be aware of. But I think most owners get to a place where it becomes not a primary concern, as you're hearing here. All right, let's go to our next guest for a question. Kyle, if you can come off mute, tell the group where you're located and go ahead with the question.
Hey, can you hear me?
Sure can.
All right, perfect. Sorry, I had a permission thing. Well, thanks for having us here. I'm in Forest Lake, Minnesota, which is about 25 minutes outside of the Twin Cities. And just like Ravi, not to play the one-upman game, but I talked to Dick yesterday for my first call, and he told me about this. And honestly, that was Ravi's question was very much in line with mine. So maybe it's a sign of somebody who doesn't know anything wanting to ask questions. But I do have, I had a slight tangent to mine that I think is still relevant. And I think Dave mentioned it a couple times, fast sign in particular. So what, and maybe this is one-sided by asking everyone here who is a part of Signworld, but what makes Signworld different from something like Fast Sign? Because I'm pretty sure, I think I looked into it, I think Fast Sign is a franchise. So what makes Signworld different? I guess would be my question.
Great question. All right, Don's waving his
ready.
hand. He looks like he wants to tackle this question first. I'm sorry, Kyle, did I interrupt you? Did you have a second part to the question?
No, that was it. I was just remarking on Don's excited to answer this question.
Yeah, he's already waving his hand, so I'm going to give the floor to him first. Go ahead, Don.
Well, I told you I was going to do $5.6 million this year. If I was with Signorama or Fast Signs, I'd be handing them a $400,000 check every year for that $5.6 million, which I could use to go on more vacations if I had to, right? Here's the difference. Signworld gives you a business in a box. They give you the equipment, the training, the know-how, the access to the network of suppliers and other Signworld owners. And then it's totally up to you what you do with that business at that point in time. If you want to be a true entrepreneur, don't want any hand holding, don't want any, top-down directives or anything like that, that's why you go with Signworld. If you feel like you need to walk the wire with a safety net underneath you because you're worried that you might need more corporate support than that, then surely go with a franchise, but you're going to pay a lot of money to be part of that franchise network. At Signworld's corporate staff is small, but it's also there whenever you need them. And the Signworld network owner of 300 plus owners is always there to help you out relative to what you need. I've probably written checks last year to about 65 different Signworld owners across the country who I contract to install signs for me. Signs I sell and fabricate here in Atlanta and ship off to other locations around the country. So again, as I said earlier, there's no brand in the marketplace that's, going to buy you more business. A matter of fact, in the small business community, if you're part of a franchise, people want to give people who are independent more of a chance than someone who's with a Signorama or a Fast Sign. At least that's what I find out.
Great response and advice there. Dave, how about you? I don't know if you looked at Fast Signs in the beginning. You obviously have them in your market today. What do you say is the difference between us?
Yeah, so Tim Root told me this a while ago. He says, good thing about Signworld is nobody's telling you what to do. The bad world about Signworld is that nobody's telling you what to do, right? I looked at Signorama actually when I started down the Signworld path, and they have a nice package, right? It's another $100,000 up front in terms of your buy-in. You're going to be in a retail space, so your rent's going to be about 1.5 times what you otherwise would pay. And before you have opened your doors, you need 4 full-time employees on staff. So there's about a $10,000 a month number that you have to make right off the bat. At the same time, you give them, you sign the contract, and they go do your build out. They find your space, they hand you the keys, and you walk in, and your showroom and everything is totally set up for you. I was having the conversation with my wife, and she says, do you want to wear your shirt or do you want to wear somebody else's shirt? And that was kind of the difference there.
Very good. Thank you, Dave. Ron, what are your thoughts?
Yeah, I agree. I was gonna, you just stole my point, Dave. My shirt says South Lake Signs, which is my company. If you're Fast Signs, in my opinion, either Fast Sign reputation is going to follow you positively or negatively. And secondly, I think there's so many of them that you kind of disappear. It's a Fast Sign. Oh, which Fast Sign was I working with? I can't remember. I think it was over here. It's over here, and there's 5 in the city, right? Versus I'm unique and I'm familiar, and they remember me.
Love it.
And I like to throw elbows too. I want to do my own thing, and I know how to do it. So Signworld gives you that freedom to jump into the deep end and screw up, and then come back and say, "Hey, Jeannie, I need some help."
Right.
It's great.
Yeah, absolutely. And Kyle, what I'll say is you're working with someone who has a great experience doing the same thing, because Dick looked at Fast Signs, Signorama, Speed Pro, Signworld, and SignBiz. So he actually explored 5 sign and graphic franchise systems, including Signworld, before he made his choice. So I think you're working with a great advisor there to just get his perspectives. But hopefully that was some good feedback you got there from the owners as well. We're going to go to one more question in a moment, but Sheree in the background is going to start playing some videos. There's no sound to them. They're just going to be some photos to watch and learn about different types of projects that our owners are doing, some pictures of our owners and their physical operations and their profiles, as well as their spaces, and then also what is considered in-house production versus what is outsourced production. So she's going to play those while we continue with some questions. To our next guest for a question, Diego, if you can come off of mute, tell the group where you're located and go ahead with the question. Diego, are you unable to mute your line? I still see you're muted.
No, sorry, I'm good. I don't have any questions at this moment.
No problem. Just listening in. Glad to have you here today. And if you do come up with a question, let me know. All right, let's go to the top of the group again and go around for some additional questions. Jim and Ashley, go ahead and take yourself off of mute and go ahead with a question for them today.
Yeah, I guess I would, my next question would be about marketing, and we're about to start talking to the three marketing agencies that you have here. Is anybody doing anything with any of the marketing companies outside of the website and web development, or are you using them as another source?
So are you asking if they're using another resource besides for their web marketing partner?
Well, that, or if they're using their marketing partner for something other than web, anything additional.
Okay, so I'll just kind of add to that just a little bit. So if you can share if you're using either City Scoops, ClickText, or Measure Marketing, or previously used any of those three, and then if you're using them for anything additional or another marketing partner for your marketing in your business. Dave, I see you're off of mute already. Go ahead and answer first if you don't mind.
Yeah, we're using ClickText and it's been pretty good. I think there's a lot of people in that space, through BNI and other meetings and the chamber, and you run into web marketing people all the time and they all say pretty much exactly the same thing. I think you just got to find somebody that you can communicate well with and somebody that's willing to adapt your program to changes that you want to make. We had another outfit that we were working with that was, definitely made the phone ring, but it was stuff we didn't want and they couldn't get themselves away from that. So I just saw one of my signs pass by on your slideshow. That was kind of cool. I think they're a vendor, right? From everybody's past, I'm sure you've had vendors you've had to deal with and beat up and be nice to periodically. But you have to manage the vendor. You can't just turn it over to them and expect it to drive itself. I think you got to monitor it and make changes for what you want to do.
Do you use any other marketing partners for anything else in your business, or is it just
not really. I have an intern that posts all of our social media stuff because I don't really want to spend time doing that. But other than that, no, I don't really have any other marketing suppliers.
Okay, very good. Ron, let's go to you next.
Yep, I have Measure Marketing, have had them the entire time, and I think they do pretty well. I would say it's a balance from an owner's perspective. I had no background knowledge of website design, web marketing, social media, anything like that, right? I've had to learn a ton. I've seen others of my peers that have come from that background or have a pretty good skill set in that background. And I've actually seen them struggle because I think of their expectation of the marketing team and having it just so and producing volume almost immediately. And so it depends on where your skill set is. For myself, I've had to learn a lot, dig into it, engage into it both as learning and also providing feedback, direction, and content. But if you're someone that has a lot of that experience, there's a bit of don't get in the weeds because you're comfortable there. You'll spend a bunch of time there and maybe it's productive, but a lot of times I've seen with my peers that have done that, it's not been productive for them. They've kind of had to let go and let the marketing team take it. Was still, that balance of control.
And Ron, do they do your social media posts and everything as well? Or
Yeah,
do you
sorry. Yep. So they do my, website maintenance, blogs, social media. But social media is definitely something through 2025 that I want to drive more beyond what the marketing team is doing. They're doing, I would say, bare minimum and, basics. And it takes my engagement and direction and capacity to be able to drive that to more real content, more real-time content, things like that. So.
Very good. And Don, you started before the web was even a thing. No, I'm kidding. Who do you use for website
That's
marketing?
not true. Come on, 2011. Give me a break.
I'm just teasing you.
So, a very wise man named Dave Farrow once said, if you can outsource everything that's not core to your business, outsource it, right? As the owner of the business, you have one job, and that one job is to be selling, bringing customers in the door and representing your business. You are the brand. You are the brand for the first 3 to 5 years. It's you. People want to see you. On your business card, it's not going to say president, CEO, or or anything else. It's going to say owner, because people want to talk to the owner. So focus on sales and outsource everything else you can, whether it's payroll or IT or web development. We used the vendor that was recommended to us by Signworld when we came out the door, and we used them. They got our website up. And then after a few years, since we were doing networking, and as I think Dave said, every third person in a network meeting is a web development and social media marketing person. We did a little chamber of love and moved our web service and our marketing to someone else in the chamber, and then to another person in the chamber. And we've been with the same person for about, I think, 7 years now. We spend probably about $4,000 a month in marketing in general for our business.
Very good. Thank you, Don. If you ever come across Don's website, he's got some great video content on his website too. I love all the videos that you guys put on there. It looks great. All right, let's go to another question. Bob, I'm not going to try to say the last name again. I'm going to say it wrong. There you go. Thank you for coming off mute. Go ahead with the question.
Yeah, I mean, I'm kind of focused on, what the world is like as a startup. I guess this is gonna maybe be kind of a funny way to phrase a question, but were you guys freaked out when you were starting up? And like, how long does it take before you stop being freaked out? Like, what's the threshold? What was the thing that got you out of freak out mode and into confidence mode?
All right. Well, let's start with our newest owner. Ron, are you still crying yourself to sleep every night? Are you still
I was
freaking
gonna
out?
say, I don't know that I can answer this question. I think Don may be the closest one. Is Don out of freak out mode yet? I don't know. No. So it's the hardest thing I've ever done. And I'm putting 100% of me into it. I wouldn't say 24/7. I'm very disciplined of evenings shutting down, weekends shutting down, but you're on full time, and it's a lot of work, but I love it. The capital, having cash in the account is the big stressor for me, and balancing and learning how jobs come in, how deposits come in, and your cash flow journey is definitely quite the journey. So does that answer the question?
I think so. Right? Are you still in freak out mode? I guess that was really the question.
Oh,
I was asking.
good Lord. Yes.
Okay.
Yeah. No, I mean, I balance the, is this going to make it with, I feel like I'm on a very strong path, very successful path, and good things are in progress. But, so I have to balance the freak out on day-to-day stuff, fantastic look in the future.
Okay. Very good. Dave, how about you? Are you out of freak out mode yet?
Yes, the great Don Conklin once told me it's 2 years of hell. And so that's actually pretty close to accurate. Eventually I tell people it's like if you've seen The Matrix, where they're trying to read the screen as everything's kind of floating by you, and eventually you just learn how to read the Matrix and it all slows down. It's a confidence thing, right? And so, I remember the first time I sold a set of channel letters, I didn't sleep for a month. And now I just walk in and go, yeah, it's about $6,000. And they go, cool. And then we're done, right? And 2 emails later, we've got a job moving in. So it gets easier once you've done something. I'm not a big fan of monument signs just because there's more engineering and more stuff like that. And we don't do a lot of it, but, I can do them if we need to. You find a sweet spot and you find customers that you like to deal with, and you learn what to say no to pretty quickly, which will relieve the stress and sleeping as well. So yeah, I mean, I think it just takes a little while, but you know, if you just keep pushing, you'll get there.
Thank you, Dave. Don, to the notorious person who has tokened that phrase, I've heard it many times before. What would you say?
Well, it is 2 years of hell. And when I say 2 years of hell, it's not because I didn't enjoy what I was doing. I loved every minute of it. It's just that you don't know what you don't know. You know, I was in telecom. I had no idea if I hung a sign on a building, whether it would fall off and kill somebody or not. Right. So it's what you don't know. That's why you hire experts to do the stuff that you don't know. And what I would tell you is that, you know, you learn it, you know, as like Dave said, after you get a couple of those jobs under your belt, you wind up, you know, being confident about it and everything else like that. But again, back to what I said earlier in the call is that if you have a vision, what you think the business will look like in 5 years, which I encourage everybody to say, in 5 years, my business will be $1.5 million, 8 employees, 5,000 square feet, you know, a bucket truck, whatever it is, to have that vision and know that you'll never fail, right? I started out, Teresa kept her job for a little bit. After 4 months, she saw how much fun we were having, haha, and she decided to quit her job. It's what we call our Cortez moment. We burned the ships. There was no going back. We weren't going to fail at this business. It was a matter of just putting our heart and soul into it and knowing that we'd come out the other end, right? Um, did we freak out? I don't say we freaked out, but we were wondering how quickly we were going to be able to, you know, get back to full salary where we were in corporate America, you know, and that was probably after about 2 years. And now we're doing 20 to 25% net margin on $5.6 million. So y'all could do the math on that one. So.
Yeah, I think, you know, if you're starting a business, it's always going to be hard. It's not something that everybody does, which is why, you know, there's opportunity to do this yourself. But if you believe in yourself and you're willing to, you know, follow some guided processes or guided suggestions and lean in and learn from others, you know, I strongly encourage the Signworld community and the owners and how they help each other is so powerful. If you want to do it on your own, don't join Signworld. Just, you know, find a business and do it on your own. But if you're looking for a business in this industry, to the previous point about fast signs versus Signworld, I think there's a lot of value. And knowing that you're not alone is a key comfort. So, all right, let's go to Bob Cooper. If you have a question, go ahead and share it with the group for them to respond.
Yeah, I do. So I talked to a couple of owners who were in decent metro areas. Like I think one was in Charlotte, one was in Phoenix, and they're both growing cities and they're big cities. And granted, there could be a lot of competition, but there would be, I guess, without even, and even before doing any kind of, I don't know, research, whatever, you know, you're in a pretty big market. So where I live it's a small town, so 16,000 people in a relatively small county in Florida. And it's also between some bigger areas, like between West Palm Beach and then north, there are some smaller cities. Vero Beach is maybe 40, 50 miles above. And I am not sure how to figure out what kind of market I've got. And had I been living where I used to live in the Washington, D.C. area, there's all that government stuff. There's all the things that feed off the government. And then that on itself built this whole ecosystem of businesses. I probably wouldn't have that question, but I do. And it's something that I'm actually a little bit afraid about. When I Google sign companies, you know, I'll see some that'll come up in West Palm Beach, which I'm not sure if I was a consumer, I would want to go 40, 45 miles away in order to get my work done. And I know every one of you went through this, and maybe if you have anything that's sort of similar in terms of a geography where you started your business, that would be really helpful if you could give me some suggestions on how to get a feel for the market.
Okay, great question. So each of them are in larger markets, with the exception of Dave. I see you're probably in the smaller market out of 3. I saw Don raising his hand. It looks like he might want to offer some advice on this one first. So Dave, I'll come to you next. Go ahead, Don.
I know exactly where you're at. I could open up in Stuart, Florida, and in 3 years, I could be $1 million business. I mean, you're not going to do the business in Stuart, Florida. You're going to do it in, because that's where you change from the Turnpike to 95. That's why I know where Stuart is, right?
Yeah.
You're going to be doing business in Vero. You're going to be doing business down in West Palm. You're going to be doing business up and down the 95 corridor. You know how much business is up and down the 95 corridor? And a lot of the times, you're going to be going to the customer. Now, you might be putting some miles on the car. That's fine. But at the end of the day, there's so much market. And by the way, I can't find a really good sign company to actually install signs for me in that area of Florida, quite frankly. But you're sitting at a gold mine of opportunity right where you're at that point in time, and maybe a little bit further away. So my example, I'm in Beaufort, Georgia. If you know anything about Atlanta, Beaufort is about 40 miles north of the perimeter. Okay.
I know where that would be.
Okay,
Yeah.
so you know where I'm at. So I'm 40 miles away from Atlanta. My guys leave my shop every day, at least 2 teams, and are going to Atlanta or Cobb County or south of Atlanta. It's just a matter of, if you have enough business, you can nest jobs together. You can go do 3 or 4 installs in the same location in Atlanta, right? It's not a matter of where you're located, because yeah, there's probably in the stored area, you're probably talking about, some warehousing and stuff like that. But it's the surrounding areas that you're going to get a lot of opportunity in business for. And don't call yourself the Stort Sign Company, right? That limits you. Call yourself, Global Industrial Signs of America or something like that, right? We're pinnacle.
South Florida.
Right, yeah, right.
Let it-
I always thought Dave Farrow, pigeonholed him with a 303 sign company, but hey, right, we're Pinnacle Custom Signs. We could be anywhere, right? So I wouldn't have an issue. If I were you, I wouldn't really have an issue. The initial local business might be a little bit slower, but you're going to find a lot of people down there looking for sign companies, because I can't find really a lot of really good sign companies down in that area, personally.
Okay.
All right. And Ron knows the market of Florida very well. Ron, what would you say?
Yeah, I know. I think that's legitimate. I tell other owners, this is a bit of geographically driven, how your market is going to be. I would trust Don's opinion. I would also say it probably gives you the flexibility to decide, do I just want to be a small shop, or do I want to be a large shop? And you could probably be very successful, with a couple employees, and that's all I want, and be fairly local, or like Don's saying, drive a bit longer, and there's all kinds of opportunities.
Okay. And Dave, sorry, I said I was going to go to you first because you're in the smallest market, but I came to you last. Sorry about that. What's your thoughts?
Yeah, it's interesting. So where we're situated, there's the town we're in, and then it's a 15 or 20-minute drive to the next surrounding town, pretty much in 4 directions. We try to keep it to within 45 minutes. We try to focus geographically within about a 45-minute drive. Although that's not to say, I've put a monument sign down an hour and a half down, actually one was 3 hours south of us. You go where the business is, particularly if it's a big enough job. If it's a window graphic south of Denver, then, I've got other Signworld owners that are down there, and I'll just refer them, and we send each other business, and it kind of takes care of those things. Denver itself is a little bit of a tricky market to play in, at least from the permitting standpoint. So we don't do a lot of stuff down in Denver, but that's fine. There's plenty of opportunity north of us. So you kind of find what works for you.
Great feedback there. And I also say, to Don's point, your market is not your only market. That's where you have immediate opportunity, but you could have clients that have locations in your market that you're going to be, supporting projects in other geographies if you want to grow bigger and your local market doesn't offer that.
Yeah,
So
5% of my business comes from my assigned Signworld territory. 35% of my business is outside of the state of Georgia. So, it's a starting place. It's not the ending place.
Yeah. Great. All right. Well, I do see we're at time, and I want to be very conscious of our owners who have given their hour here to share their perspectives. So Dave and Ron and Don, thank you all very much for taking your time and sharing your feedback here. Appreciate you. And to our guests who joined us, we appreciate your interest in learning more about Signworld. We look forward to the additional calls needed to help you in your journey to decide if this is the best fit for you. So with that, hope everybody has a great Wednesday. Stay warm wherever you are. I cannot believe it's -9 in Texas, makes -25 in Wisconsin. Not so bad. But with that, stay warm, stay healthy, and be blessed. Thanks, everybody.